The storm outside had been relentless all night, rattling windows and turning the streets of Charleston, South Carolina, into a maze of puddles and dim reflections. Inside the small, cozy diner tucked on a quiet corner, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon cut through the chill. The place was nearly empty, save for a few late-night patrons and one waitress who was about to have a night she would never forget. Hannah Mitchell had never planned on working that evening. Life had a way of throwing curveballs, and tonight's was a simple favor, filling in for her friend who had called in sick at the last minute. She tied her apron a little tighter, brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, and tried to push the exhaustion from a long week out of her mind. Hannah had always been the dependable one, the friend people could count on, but somehow that reliability had never seemed to translate into luck in love or career. Her life was steady, safe, and unremarkable, but her heart longed for a story she didn't think she would ever get. As she carried a tray of plates toward a lone customer sitting in the corner, she caught herself staring. There was something about the man, tall, impeccably dressed, with a presence that filled the small diner even without a word. His sharp suit contrasted with the warm, worn surroundings, and his eyes, a clear shade of green, held a mixture of curiosity and something softer, something almost vulnerable. Unbeknownst to Hannah, she was serving a man who had quietly admired her from afar for months, a CEO named Jonathan Reed, the kind of man whose name commanded attention in boardrooms, yet who somehow found himself captivated by the unassuming charm of a simple diner waitress. Hannah approached cautiously, offering a polite smile and asking what he would like. He smiled back, small and tentative, and ordered coffee and a slice of cherry pie, his voice smooth but carrying a trace of hesitation. There was a rhythm to the way he spoke, a warmth that contrasted the cold, calculating world he usually inhabited. That small gesture, his subtle nervousness, the way he watched her move around the diner, was enough to make Hannah feel something stir within her that she hadn't felt in years, curiosity, and maybe a flicker of hope. At that moment, if any of the viewers watching this story believe in kindness, second chances, and the unexpected ways life can bring people together, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, the smallest acts ripple far beyond what we can imagine. Hannah moved with quiet efficiency, but she noticed him glancing at her more than once. There was something familiar, almost as if he had been watching her from a distance before, though of course she had never seen him in this diner before. She shook her head, blaming it on her imagination, and focused on her tasks. Still, each time she returned to his table with a fresh refill of coffee, their eyes met, and she felt a strange comfort, like she was suddenly not so invisible in the world anymore. Jonathan, on the other hand, was torn between his business instincts and the pull of something profoundly human. CEOs like him were used to reading numbers, contracts, and market trends, but Hannah was none of those things. She was real. She laughed softly when he cracked a small joke, and she had a grace in her movements that didn't come from power or privilege, but from resilience. He had admired her quietly for months, watching her serve customers with patience and warmth, never knowing if he would have the courage to speak. And now here she was, unaware of the storm she had just stirred inside him. The diner's evening wore on, and a sudden blackout plunged the room into darkness. The hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside were the only sounds. Hannah froze, unsure what to do, until Jonathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flashlight from his briefcase. Without hesitation, he offered it to her, his hand steady, his eyes locked onto hers. In that brief moment, the noise of the world melted away. She felt a strange connection, a moment suspended in time where neither titles, responsibilities, nor fears mattered. They were just two people, caught in a storm, finding a spark of light. The lights flickered back on moments later, but neither of them moved. There was an unspoken acknowledgement between them, a recognition of something deeper than circumstance. Hannah, though flustered, smiled genuinely, a warmth that seemed to reach into Jonathan's very soul. It was the kind of smile that had the power to heal and inspire, and he felt a strange certainty that he couldn't ignore. He needed to know her. Days passed, and Jonathan couldn't shake the memory of that night. He visited the diner again, not for business, not for appearances, but to see her. Each visit was carefully timed when she was working, and each time he learned something new about her, her favorite pie flavor, the way she hummed when she thought no one was watching, her dream of someday traveling beyond Charleston, beyond her safe, predictable world. And Hannah, at first cautious, began to notice him too, not just as a wealthy stranger, but as someone who seemed genuinely interested in her as a person, not an object of admiration. One evening, after closing the diner, Jonathan lingered longer than usual. He finally mustered the courage to speak, asking if she would consider dinner, not in a formal setting, not in a place filled with the trappings of wealth, but somewhere ordinary, somewhere real. Hannah hesitated, memories of past disappointments and heartbreak surfacing like shadows. But there was something in his eyes, a sincerity, that made her heart whisper yes. The dinner was simple, yet perfect. They spoke about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their fears, their hopes. Hannah spoke of the hardships she'd endured, times when bills piled up, dreams deferred, and the loneliness that had sometimes felt crushing. Jonathan listened, not as a man in power, but as someone who cared, really cared. He shared his own struggles, the loneliness behind the boardroom doors, the pressure of expectations, and the longing for genuine connection. That night, over ordinary food and quiet conversation, they discovered a truth that money and status could never buy. Human connection, raw and real, was priceless. As weeks turned into months, their bond grew. Hannah's friends noticed a change in her, a newfound lightness, a resilience strengthened by love and attention. Jonathan became more than just a successful CEO. He became someone capable of vulnerability, of empathy, of joy not measured by profit margins. Together, they navigated the delicate balance of two worlds colliding, learning that love was not about perfection, but about acceptance, patience, and unwavering support. Then came the moment that truly tested their connection. A business trip took Jonathan across the country for weeks, and Hannah felt the absence keenly. For the first time, she realized how deeply she had come to rely on his presence, not because he could provide security, but because he had become a source of emotional stability, a reminder that someone could see her worth even when she doubted it herself. Their reunion was quiet yet powerful, filled with the kind of tenderness that only comes from longing and understanding. One rainy evening, mirroring the night they first truly noticed each other, Jonathan took Hannah to the very diner where it all began. He led her to the corner booth, now empty, and with a trembling hand, he reached for hers. There were no grand gestures, no cameras, no spectators, just two hearts finally finding home in one another. He whispered that he had loved her from the first moment he saw her, that her kindness, her strength, and her authenticity had changed him in ways he never imagined. Hannah, tears glistening in her eyes, realized that love, true love, sometimes comes when life's storms force two souls into the same small space. Quietly, unexpectedly, beautifully. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the power of kindness, second chances, and unexpected love, please engage with this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let others know that sometimes the most ordinary moments carry the extraordinary magic of connection. Before you go, comment below and tell us about a moment when someone's kindness changed your life unexpectedly. Your story might inspire someone else today. Hannah and Jonathan's story didn't end in grandiose declarations or public spectacles. It ended in understanding, in respect, and in the quiet certainty that sometimes the universe conspires to bring two people together in the simplest, most profound ways. A waitress filling in for a friend had unknowingly walked into a story she could never have scripted herself. And a CEO who had always had everything but felt incomplete had finally found the missing piece. not in wealth, power, or prestige, but in a woman who had always believed in the small, extraordinary moments that truly make life worth living. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the simplest choices: showing up, helping a friend, or taking a chance on someone who seems ordinary but turns out to be everything you never knew you were looking for. And in the warm glow of that Charleston diner, with the smell of coffee and pie lingering in the air, two hearts finally found their forever in each other.